Welcome to Car Talk with Matty J. Another Tuesday night, more car-related topics as per usual. I'm in the studio with James from ESTBLSHD. What's happening?
Hey, what's going on?
And Paul, what's going on, man?
I'm very happy to be here again.
Becoming a regular, Paul.
Yes,
what's happening, mate?
I think I like the radio.
It's got the CarTorque bug.
It's bitten. The CarTorque bug has bitten, and it doesn't let go. It's a good bug. It's a good bug to have. So we all caught up for go karting on the weekend. It's a bit of fun. I thought I'd just start the show. So we're saying how fun go karting is.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Different
track.
I've never been to that track before. We went to down in Port Melbourne.
It was Port Melbourne, and it looked like a new track as well, in a new building, really nice, in a good condition.
Yeah, it was.
Paul reckons it was something out of Europe. What he was telling the lady there, the bird.
I've only been to one.
Oh, okay.
So, in terms of your other experience, did you prefer this track to like more out like? Have you been to the one in South Morang?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, they are similar. I think all go-kart tracks are similar because they're all small and the go-kart is not very powerful, probably 9 horsepower.
Yeah.
So that's not as good as probably 15 or 16 horsepower, but you still have a lot of fun. And I think as soon as you finish go-karts and you start driving your car, doesn't matter how good it is.
It feels a bit weird, doesn't it?
It doesn't feel 100%.
I think that's a good thing, though. It actually makes you believe how powerful your car is.
And not only that, like I know after me driving a go-kart, it happens to me every time. Like the moment I get out and hop into my own car and drive off, you instantly feel, holy crap, the car's not as responsive as in the turn-in and everything. You forget it.
Sucks,
the steering,
yeah,
is the worst. Like in a car, you have to turn basically 360 degrees before the car turns. With go-kart, you just turn a little bit and it turns.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
but it's good in the case that, for instance, the car does not have 9 horsepower, and that the throttle actually works.
Yeah, true. But then you got to remember, like go-karts, they're not made to be stupendously fast, especially ones that are at
closed indoor circuits
and stuff. Unless you bring like your own Arrow or whatever brand one you want to bring down, you can get some really high powered go-karts. I've seen people with like chucking Hayabusa engines in them, and they're just insane. Like that's a death sentence right there.
But I think all the fast go-karts are on the outdoor track, not on the inside.
Oh yeah, have to be outdoor. Yeah, I mean
like a Phillip Island track or something.
I guess you could probably drive it on a Phillip Island track, but like more, I'd say like on a bigger, like you probably get it happening on like that big track in South Morang, because it's got long straight places where you can actually open up the go-kart and and
have enough time to stop as well.
Have enough time to stop and turn it in. But in terms of like 9 horsepower or 1 horsepower, it doesn't really matter. The fun factor is still there, and it's back to basics motorsport. If you really think about it, at the end of the day, I mean, most motorsport people starting go-karts, so you get that. I guess that trying to find the best driving line fever in the fact that you're actually you're running for position. I know there was tons of bumping and stuff going on, which we shouldn't be doing, but it gets competitive, and that's a good thing about go-karting, because it's not just fun. It's actually it makes you. For me, I think it makes you a better driver.
Actually, that place that we've been to, the go-karts were very similar one to another with power, so it was very hard for us to overtake each other.
In terms of power, weight, for example, your brothers are, James, are like 2 kilos. Yeah, so I'd be hammering them on the corners, and they'd just be taken away. They'd be like walking me in the streets. I'm like, this is not fair, because they weigh nothing.
So the response is a lot better.
Yeah.
But then again, so the Port Melbourne track, as good as it is, it's very, very tight. So overtaking was going to be an issue regardless.
Yeah.
So the one in South Morang, if you come around like the back straight, you have so much room to play with.
Yeah.
For instance, if you want to go wide and like grab that little concrete bit and get some extra speed, you can overtake.
Strips,
yeah. So it just depends.
I mean, it does depend. It depends on the track. It depends on the conditions. Depends on who you're racing. For example, your brothers were a bit chaotic. Nah, it was only good fun. We all had a good laugh. Even my sister had a good time. So.
Yeah, awesome.
I tried to overtake your sister a few times, and she wouldn't let me.
She wouldn't let you?
I started screaming to people, "Can you please let me pass?" and just chase me.
Get them away from me. I want them to try beat me.
Well, surely can't wait for the next one.
It'll be good. We're gonna have to tee up another session.
Electric
carts are good. I've been on them twice. The one in it's past Sunshine.
We should throw out an invite to the guys on Facebook and see actually who's listening.
We should do like a CarTorque meet there because that's where they hold the Cars and Coffee now.
Yeah, Ravenhall.
Yeah,
it's worth a drive. I think it might be good. Ravenhall.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's just past Sunshine. I forgot what the company's called. Well, I've got their card in my wallet. But yeah, the go karting there. It's the electric cars. It's very much like an electric car in that aspect. It's just got instant torque. So like you actually feel the G forces getting pushed into your seat. Like straight away, just as soon as you touch it, bang, you're in your seat.
What's the like for instance battery life? Like for instance, is the torque better as soon as you get on, or is
well, I'm going to assume because they're like, I'm pretty sure they're lithium batteries. They're going to give you everything, and then they're just going to have nothing. Yeah. So I know after every run, they're hooked up at they got like a quick charger. And they hook them in, and then as soon as you're about to go, they just take them straight off. I know they just keep going and going. But yeah, from when I was racing, I had no fade out of the power band, and I raced them two times in 2 different days for like 4 runs. Because you'd have one run and get off, or another run and get off, and yeah, they were great. Really, I'm actually really keen on doing them again. But look, we're going to get to our first break of the night. We're going to go to a song by George Maple. The song's called Hero. She's an Aussie artist. We support Aussie artists here on Community Radio. We'll be right back after this. You're back on CarTorque with Matty J. That was George Maple with Hero. Now, during the break, we're talking about driving positions, I should say, in certain cars, and issues we've had with cars in the past that have had a high driving position. So the complaints that people have with a high driving position in a car is that you feel like you're driving on top of the car, not in the car.
That's correct. A lot of new cars have that problem.
They do. I mean, my Typhoon's got that problem. There's a complaint about the FG Falcon. It's a complaint about a lot of other cars. And you said your MPS had a really high driving position as well.
It didn't have really high driving position, but it was pretty high. Yeah, it was.
The thing is, it's a family car. That's the platform it's built on.
See, I think that the thing is they should really push to. I mean, if you're having a sporty version of a car, you should really say, okay, well, if it's a sporty version, we've got to make the driving position right. We've got to make the effort to not kind of lose it from its. Yeah,
that's the thing. I think Mazda's too conservative in that sense because the Skyline is built on a family chassis. I think it was the Laurel or something else.
The 33 was, yeah.
Yeah, so basically that platform there, as Paul was saying, he's actually owned the 33, so he knows that they're good in terms of driving position.
But I think if you go for a dedicated sports car, it's already a lot better. I think most of the problem with new cars, for example, like an MPS or XR5 or one of those Focus RS, it's an excellent car, but the seat doesn't have enough adjustments. Yeah. If you lower the seat, for example, only the bottom part goes down, but only the back part of the bottom part goes down, for example. Not the full seat. Yeah. And this is the issue. If you could lower the whole seat, front and bottom, front and back, it would be a lot better. Then we wouldn't complain.
I know, because I was going to mention this with the Focus RS. It's the biggest complaint about it, besides the ridiculously stiff suspension, is the driving position, is the seat that is just too high. And online there's a kit you can buy that lowers the seat down, like the factory seat, and from what I've seen, the reviews with that, people love it. They reckon it's the best mod you could possibly buy for the car, because it actually makes you feel like you're driving in the car, not on the car.
What's wrong with the suspension?
Crazy stiff.
I heard with the Focus RS, when it comes to Australia, I think they're changing the springs.
No.
For softer ones, is that true?
No, it's not. No, they've kept it hardcore. I mean, it's good for the track, but companies like Mountune, who specialise in performance Fords, they actually, with their RS system, they take the springs out of the ST and put in the RS.
Okay.
Because they reckon the springs in the ST are a lot more forgiving, and it's a better compromise, and they reckon they get better performance out of the springs in the ST.
In terms of forgiving, you mean just like wheel travel? No,
just not bone jarring ride. And when you go around corners, you have a little bit more, like not super amount of roll, but enough to correct and be just and not be as bumpy and all over the road.
Does it change the dynamics of the other modes, for instance?
No, it shouldn't.
Or whatever.
No, it shouldn't. From what I've heard, it's just the difference. It should be the same spring rate, but just different in terms of
progressive or linear. Or,
So if it's progressive, then it's changed. Because progressive is usually a little bit softer at the beginning and then firmer later on.
Yeah, I'd have to do more research into that, but I know they they combat that problem with the RS with the ST springs, and I've driven an Focus ST, and it's quite a nice car to drive. It's not overly stiff. It doesn't have much body roll.
The current one.
The current one, yeah.
The 2 liter.
2 liter turbo, yeah. Yeah, I drove it when they first came in.
Was it Duratec or something?
Yeah, they call it Duratec 2 liter. And I drove that, and I actually drove that. Well, geez, the Mark 1 of that, the first ones that came out. And I loved it. I wanted to put a deposit on it that day, but I was like, no, I held off. But it rode really well, and I can see why that car got good reviews. I'm like, if that car was good, the Focus RS is going to be excellent. Which all the reviews are saying the Focus RS is the best bang for your buck car in the world at the moment. In terms of, it's just people complain that driving with it every day is a bit hard work.
And what is it like if you compare it to your Ford XR6?
Well, in comparison to my Typhoon, the Typhoon's pretty. It's not a boat, but the Typhoon's actually pretty firm. You've been in it, James. It's not soft, but it's made for the conditions here, so it rides the bumps and stuff really well. In terms of,
it's meant to be like a heavier platform, so it's more.
Doesn't skip.
Yeah, it's more focused. Obviously, FPV revised the suspension tune and everything on that car. I'll have to take you for a spin on it one day, and I'll even let you sit in it and take around corners because you'll feel it's been set up really well. I know in terms of from like my brother's XA6 Turbo to my Typhoon, his rear springs are softer, so he gets a lot more squat on launch, whereas the Typhoons are a bit stiffer. So it's for cornering not as good for launch because with the squat you can really put the power down. So especially with his car, he's got 300 kilowatts at the wheels. He can really put that power down. Whereas with my Typhoon, from a dig, if I really punch it, I will break in a wheel spin. But around corners, that little bit extra firmness makes all the difference.
Okay. So it's a lot. Yours is a lot more grippy in corners.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's a lot more grippy. My brother actually drove my car, and he was putting it through his pace around some corners. He's like, bloody hell. He's like, not only your tire, I got good tires on there, but he's like, your suspension feels like on point. Like it's a lot more focused than just my XR6 Turbo. So, in comparison, like I drove my mum's BA XT, which was just the base model, and that's super soft. That had acres of body roll. Yeah. So it's a completely different car. Like you can see the progression, but like I've driven both like my mum's, my brother's, and in my car, you can see mine's the more focused in that aspect.
I would think that maybe one of the reasons why Ford Falcon was failing before was because of the suspension. Maybe I think if they made a standard suspension, something in between a normal Falcon and an XR6, it will be still compliant enough for a lot of older people.
100%, yeah.
But it will feel a lot more sporty and more. You'll have a lot more feedback, and even old people when they drive those cars, they don't think they need the feedback, but they do.
Yep,
and
definitely.
If they get the feedback, that they'll make them a lot safer driver because they'll feel what's happening.
Underneath them. That's right. So, like, I mean, that's been, I guess, everyone's biggest gripe with the Falcon. Like especially base models. Like, they're super comfortable. They're awesome long distance cruisers. Like, you won't really find much cars that are better, like just cruising long distance. But in terms of throwing them into a corner, they are a bit soft and they get a bit squidgy. But you're right. There was like no middle ground between like Typhoon and base model. Like there was the XR6, which is a bit firmer, but it was still not as firm as what like. I reckon, for example, a base model could have had the suspension out of my car, and it would have been a much better car.
And I think one of those suspensions is not really any more expensive than a normal suspension of a Falcon. It's just different valving, basically.
Yeah.
And the springs are different, but they don't cost any more money, really.
No.
So.
I mean, they could have done that. I know with my car, they introduced the R-Spec later on, which was even firmer again on the Typhoon. And I've actually really wanted to drive one to see the difference between an R-Spec and mine, because I can still buy R-Spec springs and shocks, and I can put them in my car. But if there's no point if the difference isn't very minute. But I've heard there's a big difference in them. So even then again, that should have been the step up that Ford just FPV put it in at the start. and give them like the standard carb Typhoon springs and jogs.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better. True. But I think the R-Specs got different tyres wider on the back as well.
The later ones did, yes. But the early ones still had 245s. So the Typhoons had 245s. The later ones had 275s on the rear.
Yeah, 275s would be much better.
Yeah. Yeah, 275s.
Big step up.
I mean, with the later ones had a lot more power, like the V8s and stuff. So, the biggest gripe with the early Gen 335, supercharged V8 ones, GTs, where they just had too much power and they could not, 245 just couldn't handle it. And they put 275s in it, changed the car immensely. So, yeah, biggest gripe they had with the car. But anyway, we'll move on instead of talking about my car again. Sound insulation. Now, Paul is kind of the house expert of sound insulation, from what I've heard from Mr. James at Established. So, in terms of sound insulation, do you focus this more towards like getting better car audio, our NVH levels? I mean, my next door neighbor he bought a Hiace van, and it was just like ex Telstra tradie speak van, and it was that loud and boomy and crashy inside. He went to I think it was Carpet Court or something, and he's like, if you've got an old like cut offs of or secondhand underlay that they use for the carpets, like he got it for like nothing. He put it in there, changed the car immensely. Looks super quiet. It was actually nice to drive for a van.
Actually, every car for the past 20 something years, I always put sound insulation in it as much as I can. Obviously, I'm doing the work myself. Whatever I can do, I will try to do it just to save money. It used to be just like a normal under carpet felt, but that doesn't really work that well. Yep. Recently, for the past maybe 5-10 years, you can buy a lot of stuff from eBay, even from China, one of those stick-on things that you stick. They work okay, but... in
terms of like Dynamat and stuff, is that similar?
There are different... That's a lot better stuff. That works a lot better, but it's also a lot more expensive.
It's very heavy.
Not really.
From what I've heard people say, it's really heavy. Like
when you do the whole car.
Yeah, when you do the whole car, I guess. Like my brother put Dynamat. No, sorry, his brother. His previous XR6 came with Dynamat in the boot, and the boot was really heavy to lift up and close.
Yeah, I think probably about 5 kilos of Dynamat will be easily enough to make the car a lot more quiet. Look, I've never been in a quiet car. So for me, any car is loud, and I try to make it as much more pleasant to be in than not, basically. And you can get Dynamat, you can get another stuff of, I can't remember what it's called. You can also buy it from eBay. It's a little bit cheaper, I think, than Dynamat, but it just sticks.
Yep.
It's basically like a sticker, but it's got aluminium on top as well, and it's synthetic.
Okay.
With Dynamat, it's bitumen base.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
And the other one is synthetic and just sticks on. It doesn't smell. It's very easy to cut. And it works better. Apparently, Dynamat sags after some time, and it doesn't work as well anymore. With that synthetic stuff, it doesn't sag.
It stays...
Yeah, it just stays on the same thickness.
Yep.
And it works a lot better. What it does, it just makes... When you stick it to the flat panel... you're making it heavier, and it stops the vibration.
Yep.
And the vibration is the biggest issue in a lot of the new cars.
Yep.
For example, if you had an older car, the panels were thicker and they didn't vibrate. So even if the car was overall loud, much more louder than the new cars, you didn't have this annoying vibration on the road.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a vibration in the laser. It's towards the front. I've got to find out what it is.
All the new cars have that. My Mazda 3, like 2008, had that. All the Civics had that. Corollas have that. When you drive them in the suburbs, they're fine.
Yeah.
As soon as you get on the freeway, you've got the coarse bitumen road.
Yeah.
It's all
Shakes
over.
and rattles,
I don't even listen to the radio anymore. Like, if I'm driving my wife's VF Commodore, and that's got insulation in it, I've put some in. After probably half an hour, we just turn the radio off, and
it's quiet.
It's not quiet. It's just the radio in a car, like on a coarse bitumen road. The car
just hitting the mic there, people. It's okay.
Explosion. It's just. The radio introduces extra noises into the car,
it does,
basically. If you're driving by yourself, it's fine, but sometimes you just want to talk with people.
Yeah.
And you just want to turn the radio off and spend half an hour talking to them without those extra noises.
Yeah, and I noticed this, especially coming from my Laser to my Typhoon. The Lasers, it gets a lot of road noise, especially at 100 k's per hour or 110, the legal limit. Whereas in the Typhoon, I remember when I was James from Man vs Movies, we drove to Sydney. It was like quiet as it was just super chill, and we could like have conversations like where we're sitting now, and we could hear each other, and it was pretty easy. Whereas in the Laser, we'd be kind of, so what did you say? Can you repeat? But yeah, I guess that comes with like a car that weighs a lot more, better insulation.
But I think even spending $200 and your own labor,
yeah, I mean,
it will make a huge difference to any car.
Yeah,
and also to the audio as well. On the SV6 VF Commodore, it's got a standard radio. It's my wife's car. It doesn't have any woofers or anything. It's just got 2 speakers on the front, 2 speakers on the back, and the speakers on the front, they splits.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And I did the doors in it, just the front.
Yep.
And that made a huge difference to the Commodore. It's the car, even if you put sound insulation into the doors, it makes the engine more quiet inside.
Okay.
Obviously, the door vibrates from the engine somehow.
I mean, it's everything's gonna vibrate when the car's on.
And I thought I would have to buy speakers for that car, amplifier, something else. And I went to one of the shops, had a look. I asked them how much to fit this or that, even if I can do it myself. And they told me in a VF Commodore, if you fit good splits in and they have big crossovers, you're gonna have noise. So we have to mount crossovers inside the car and speakers inside the doors. It's a lot of mucking around, and every time someone takes the door trims off,
it's gonna make it more loose.
It's not good for the door trims.
No.
So I said, look, I'll do it myself, and I've done it myself. I'm very happy. I don't think it needs any better stereo than what it is, really, because the rest of the car is more quiet, and when you're putting insulation into the doors, it makes some of the frequencies a lot more quiet. So therefore, you don't have this muddy bass, basically. And it just sounds a lot more cleaner, more dynamic, and a lot more. You'll be a lot more happy with it.
I mean, in terms of like for car audio, if you wanted to, just because like the biggest gripe people have are my stock speakers and stuff are crap. Would the first thing you do be like, okay, well, if you want to see how good they can be, would you say, oh, okay, well, put some sound deadening first, and and really try, it'll improve the sound quality? Would you say like that?
It will make it a lot more dynamic, but if you're just running just a single cone speaker in the front, it will always lack treble unless you put very expensive speaker, which is, if you're going for very expensive, you might as well put two-way good splits or something. I can tell you, I had a Nissan Pulsar about 17 years ago when I was doing cleaning, and I just needed a cheap car, and I went to a shop, hi-fi shop with stereos for cars, and I got second-hand Nakamichi tape deck and just $15 second-hand Philips speakers, dual cone, just a normal cheap speaker, and I was amazed how good that sounded.
Well, you'd be surprised at how good like a different head unit and just a head unit makes. I know when I changed the head unit in my car, it made a world of difference.
Look, Nakamichi is one of the best brands, but I think the speakers were very, very, and I think they were only 5.25 inch, and you can't have really good sound from a 5.25 inch speaker, especially if it's a dual cone speaker. But these speakers sounded extremely good in that car for what it was, and I always had a car that had good stereo, amplifier, graphic equalizer, splits and stuff like that. I was never happy with it, but with this I was very, very happy.
You'd be surprised. I mean, my first car, it was like $500 car, really expensive sound system, but I changed the speakers, I changed the head unit, and just all that just together just made such a difference. And I put an amp and a sub in there, and I just put all the bass pretty much just to make the sub do all the work. And the clarity was so much better than the factory cardboard speakers. And I mean, it wasn't a big budget build, but it was something decent. And I mean, it was only kicker stuff at the end of the day. Kicker's not super great, but it worked for me, and I was wrapped with how it sounded. And I got tons of comments like, "Hey, this actually sounds pretty good."
Yeah, look, sometimes you don't have to spend a lot of money on speakers. If even if you have your speakers sorted out with that sound insulation, they sound a lot better than what they probably would without it.
Yeah. Well, look, we're going to go to our next break of the night. We'll be right back after this. You're back on CarTorque with Matty J. That was Wonderful Life by Stephen Grunwald and Loki. Now, James has had his MPS. He's in the stage of trying to find the best suspension setup. So now I remember the last time you came in, you were talking about you got your coilovers for it. But you're kind of in the middle of trying to find the best kind of, setup for it.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, you've already had an MPS before. You're in a similar situation, but you didn't run the coilovers. You ran
had coils.
I did.
Oh, you did.
I had 4 different sets of suspension on my MPS.
Okay, there you go.
So tested and tried.
Tested and tried. So, all right. So James, what suspension have you got in there currently now?
So my suspension is basically their Seeker. So they take a BCBR like shock body.
Yeah.
And they customize the valving based on requirements.
Okay.
So I've opted for helper springs in the front, but they're not in at the moment, and 12 kilos springs all round. Or I wanted 12 and 10, but they couldn't supply 10 for the rear because it's IRS.
Okay.
So independent rear suspension.
Yep.
So they supplied 12 kilos all round. At the moment, my rebound is pretty high at the back.
So you're getting a lot of bump then?
Yeah, especially because it's like Commodore stance.
Yeah.
Which isn't the best. I got to lift it at least 1.5 inches to 2 inches.
Yeah. It is pretty low from what I've seen.
Yeah. So it's not the comfortable, like it's not heaps comfortable. On the freeway, drives like a dream.
Yeah.
Like it's excellent.
But around town, bumpy roads.
As soon as you, for instance, railway tracks, if the railway track isn't really that smooth, and it's like for instance, locally, don't know the name of the street, but do you know where Oak Park Mac is?
Yeah.
If you go
Devon Road.
Yeah, Devon Road. If you go down that, forget it. Like you might as well throw the car in the bin. Like,
that bad.
It's bad.
Okay.
That railway track is bad in standard suspension, but
with really stiff coilovers. But now, so Paul, you've had the coilovers. You've obviously had four sets of suspension in your car in your MPS.
That's big. I had 4 sets of suspension in my MPS because I'm probably not very good with suspensions.
But did you have just one set of coilovers?
I had 2 sets of coilovers.
Okay.
First, I got Coney's Sports.
Yeah.
I ran that with standard springs.
Yeah.
That was okay. But
so Coney's Sports are just like a strut setup. It's not a
It was a strut setup on the front, and the rear is just a shock absorber with the springs. With the springs separate. Yeah. Then I got the springs compressed. It made it a lot better. Even if the spring firmness was the same, it just felt a lot better. The center of gravity was lower. The car steered different. It was a lot better.
Yep.
Then I went for a set of coilovers all around with slightly heavier springs. I think the springs were about 10 or 12 on the front and about 8 on the back. I can't remember the brand. It wasn't a really good brand, but it wasn't really bad.
Yeah. Like DGO or DNO or something like that.
HS maybe something. I can't remember. It's going back a few years.
HSP, hello snackbacks.
Yeah.
Look, they were fine, but I think the front always struggled. The front was always a little bit soft.
Pushy, and was it like?
No, it wasn't that, but it just never recovered on the bumps that well.
Okay.
And the car still felt a little bit floaty.
Yep.
Okay, but those coilovers, they only had one adjustment for rebound and compression.
Yep.
Okay, so it was probably like in one click there was 70% rebound and 30% compression, like what it normally is on the coilovers. Yep. And then I got really pissed off because I was spending all this money, and look, I couldn't copy anyone else's setup.
Yeah.
If you could copy someone else's setup, you drive their car, then you really know what you're getting.
Yeah.
So I got. James, what's the last set of BCER with external reservoirs?
It's like the high end of BC coils.
Yeah, and they were much better than the previous coilovers, much better than Coney's.
Yeah.
However, the springs were not firm enough, so I had to go for custom springs with the ERs.
Okay.
ERs are a lot better coilovers because they have separate compression and separate rebound adjustment. Yeah. So that made it a lot better. So I had to go for 12 kilo springs on the front and about, I think, 8 on the back, and that was okay.
Okay.
The front could have been a little bit firmer, probably 13 or 14. That would have been better, but it was okay.
It was a lot better than factory?
It was, yeah. It was actually a lot better.
His car he rode well.
Yeah. It did, yeah. Because I had a lot firmer springs, I didn't need to run that much rebound.
Yeah.
And that made it a lot more comfortable, and the car didn't really skip or anything over the road.
It was quite smooth.
Yeah, with the standard suspension on the way home from work, the car would probably get almost airborne.
Well, okay.
Yeah, it was floaty, like going more than 60 k's an hour. It started to feel the float.
Yeah.
And it didn't recover well on the bumps.
Yeah.
And with the previous suspension, it just made it better and better and better.
And then you got your best setup, which was with the external reservoirs.
Yeah, it was the best setup. Yeah.
Okay, so your advice for James would be with his setup now, because I know James, you're wanting to get your setup tuned properly. I was going to say to you, get it corner balanced, but you said not yet. What do you recommend in terms of that?
Because I've seen James's car and I've been in it, I would recommend that first you get the right right height.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you adjust the rebound.
Yep.
Okay, with the compression together, and then you do proper wheel alignment.
Yeah. Because wheel alignment will change a lot of things too. It'll really sharpen it back up, James.
The alignment's fine for now, but if I lift it, everything goes out of whack.
Yeah.
Because obviously, and you're adjusting things, so it's a good step. But as we speak now, my next step would be lift the back at least 2 inches, 1.5 inches.
Yeah, probably about 30 mil, 40 mil.
And then from there, that gives me more travel. So
it will feel a lot better.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel as choppy.
Mm. My front end is pretty good though.
It is, yeah. But sometimes the thing is, when I was tuning my car, I used to drive it everywhere, slowly, fast, different roads, and sometimes if you're driving in one place, you think the suspension is correct, you go to a different street,
it
feels bad. So you have to find a compromise and retune it, and then also if you make the back a little bit firmer, it changes the front a little bit too, the way it feels.
I was actually tuning it on the way from Adelaide to here. Because I had the front clicks in, so I was playing with it on the freeway. And the freeway, even though it's pretty level, there's some parts that are...
You get a bit bumpy.
Bad, like heaps of ridges or whatever, the road curvature and whatnot. So I was playing with it, every 100, 150 Ks, I was adjusting it and going further and whatnot.
Yeah. So
that helped. I got the front on I think down to 18 clicks. So
in terms of your front end now, you're happy with that? It's just your rear that's a bit out of whack.
In terms of suspension, as in coilovers, the front end's good. The only thing I probably need for the front end is shorter sway bar links, because they contact, or they're not really contact, stiff turns they'll rub against the chassis because of the length of the strut has been reduced.
Yeah.
So I got to get adjustable sway bar links, so the front end's a bit tighter in corners, and the rear that has to be lifted and obviously adjusted. The only thing is it's a pain because it's got to strip the interior.
Interior to do it, yeah.
I can do it.
It's not
with
an
sound
issue,
insulation.
I might as well get that done while I do it.
Get Paul to do it in the one hit. It's be there you go.
100%.
Shocks, suspension adjusted, sound insulation, much quieter.
It's Gen 1, Series 1, so Paul had a Series 2.
Yeah, Series 2.
They came with a lot more sound insulation from factory.
Really?
Yeah, it did, but it wasn't really that much more quiet. It was still very loud.
In comparison to the Gen 1?
Series 1.
Isn't yours a Series 2, James?
No, it's a Series 1, 06.
Yours is a Series 1?
I think 08 was a Series 2.
In terms of BK or in terms
BK.
of... Yeah. Really?
BK, yeah.
Jeez.
So there's BK Series 1, Series 2, then there's BL.
Yeah, but I didn't realise the first BK series went for so long. Because
I think it was
BK went from 2003 onwards, right?
That shape came out in 2004 maybe.
Yeah.
But the MPS started in Australia in 06.
2006, late 2006, early 2007. So the first series of the MPS went till November 07.
But the first series of the MPS was that based on the Series 1 or Series 2 of the BK?
It's the later model BK,
Okay.
but it's its first series for MPS.
MPS. Okay, I gotcha. Sorry, this is where I was getting confused. Okay, that makes sense. So, in terms of the differences between the Series 1 and Series 2, there wouldn't have been much, right?
No.
The dash changes, the material of the dash, because the dash cracks on Series 1.
Okay.
A few
turbocharger.
minor differences with the turbocharger.
Oh, really?
In terms of, I think they changed the
I didn't know that.
internal wastegate. The first series had a
problem with smoke after a while.
smoke. Yeah, so they changed the bolt.
Okay.
Yeah, the bolt that supplies the oil.
Yeah.
Oil control bolt. They got a special name for it. I forgot.
Look, most of the stuff is exactly the same, except for the turbocharger made a small difference.
Yeah.
It's more reliable on the Series 2, and it's got a bit more sound insulation, basically, and slightly better plastic on the dash.
Yeah.
James was telling me it doesn't crack in the sun.
Through the center. They all do it. My sister's Mazda 3 has done it, so... okay, well, look, we'll leave it there. We're going to move on to the car quiz, and I think James is in the hot seat tonight for that. He's like, oh, geez, here we go. So, this is the CarTorque car quiz.
Dun dun.
Dun dun. There we go. Question 1. Mazda turbocharged which version of the MX-5?
SP.
No, that, like, which model? Like, is it, model code?
Oh. Yeah, I think it's a C, NC.
NC, no. NB.
CMB?
NB.
Series
yeah.
2?
Series.
Fair enough.
That's all right. Question 2. The engine code Mazda used for this car was the what?
The engine code.
Yeah. It's based on, it's a BP engine, but obviously with a turbocharger it'd be pretty...
What, BPT?
BPT, yeah. So it's
the same motor as the
pretty much.
The
Yeah.
1.8.
Laser?
No, the 1.8 all-wheel drive
GDX and stuff.
GTX, yeah, the Familiar.
It was different, but it was same engine code.
Okay. So it's like saying RB.
Yeah. Question 3. The F6 Typhoon had a Ute twin. What was it called?
Tornado?
Tornado, that's correct. Question 4. Land Rover has announced a new electric vehicle that they're going to bring out very shortly. What is it called? No idea? Pass?
Not interested in electric vehicles.
Neither am I.
What does it start with?
Well, I'll give you a hint. The second word is rover.
That's stupid.
Yeah, so it's something rover.
We'll pass.
We'll pass, we'll come back to it. Alright. Question 5. LDV comes from where? LDV is a brand?
I think it starts with S, doesn't it?
No, LDV.
As in like the country. It starts with S.
No.
As in the car manufacturer?
Car manufacturer, yeah. It's a car manufacturer called LDV.
Are you saying who owns them?
Where are they originated from?
What country?
What country?
Russia?
No, I mean China.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they are very big here in Australia.
They're getting big, actually. There's quite a few of them getting around. Like they got commercial vehicles. Question 6. The Holden Astra is the what in Europe? The what Astra in Europe?
Opel Astra.
Opel Astra, that's correct. Question 7. True or false? Opel were only here for 6 months.
Yeah, they abandoned, so...
But were they here for only 6 months or were they here for longer?
I think it was like a year and a bit.
Yeah, no, that's right, it's false. Question 8. True or false? The Subaru Impreza was the first Subaru that Colin McRae drove.
I'll say... No.
Nah, it wasn't. He drove the Legacy or Liberty first, yeah.
What do they call that in the States?
Legacy, I'm guessing.
Same.
I'm pretty sure we're the only one that calls it Liberty.
Okay.
It's just a bit weird.
You feel the freedom when you drive it.
Yeah.
I thought, did you drive
America!
Did you drive a Brumby?
Nah, man.
Oh, okay.
A Ute.
A Ute. A brat, as they call it. They call them brats over there. Big ups to our American followers.
We're on the Rover.
Question 9. For what reason did Subaru make the 22B? Now, there's 2 reasons. If you give me one of each... Oh, sorry, if you give me one, I'll give you the full point.
Why'd they make it?
Yeah, it was... They made the 22B to celebrate 2 reasons, but if you give me one of the reasons, I'll give you the point. If you give me 2, I'll tell you what, I'll give you an extra point. How's that sound?
I don't even know.
I remember when they came out.
Yeah.
Can you give me a hint?
I'll allow it. I'm not a hard ass tonight. I'm really not in the mood to realize.
Like, I'm only guessing the reason why they wanted more power, more bottom end power. But maybe there was an occasion as well.
22B is a 2-door.
It is a 2-door.
And I think some of them came out with 2.2.
They were all 2.2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it a power thing?
Nah, it's not a power thing. Give up.
Much better looks.
It's probably to combat the Skyline.
Nah, they brought it out to commemorate Subaru's 40th anniversary and 3 consecutive rally championships.
Okay.
So that was their little present to themselves. True or false? The Holden Adventure was only available with a V8, which was their SUV.
Yeah, okay.
No, it was available with the V6 too.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Was it the 3.8?
3.8, yeah. Never late in the 3.8, mate. Yeah. Anyway, I'll move on.
They would have struggled.
Yeah, it was a heavy car.
I've been in an 8.
Yeah, and they're not that quick because they're a heavy car.
Yeah, the 5.7 V8 wasn't that quick either with the 4-wheel drive.
LS1, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was okay, but
It wasn't that quick.
yeah.
Question 4. Land Rover has announced a new electric vehicle. What is it called? It is a something Rover. It's the stupidest name ever, but it is what it is. It was all over the news, like the car news and stuff, the last few days.
I've heard of it, but I have no idea.
No idea. James, give up.
Is it that stupid?
It's pretty dumb, but everyone's just like, why would they call it that? But
Swift Rover? I don't know.
it's called the Road Rover.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. The Road Rover.
The appliance.
2, 3,
Can't
4.
they make electric cars for it?
Yeah, well, it's legit an appliance. Well, look, you got 5 out of 10. Not bad. There's some really hard ones in there tonight, actually. You did well for.
Does the 22B, was that rally spec? Like, was the rally car?
No, because 22B it was never a rally car because rally cars back then had to be a 2-liter and that was a 2.2.
Okay.
So it was kind of just like made just to be like the ultimate Impreza, which is really what it was.
It was too good to be killed.
It was too good to be.
Maybe a topic for next week.
We should bring it up.
Have you heard of? Let me pull his name up. Best damn garage in town, Smokey.
We'll come back to this, James. We're going to go to our last break of the night. You're back on CarTorque with Matty J. We are out of time. James, you got a quick shout out?
A quick shout out to Braden Carrera. He's meant to be on the show today, but hopefully comes on next week.
Could make it on. And the place you want to talk about?
The place?
Yeah, you mentioned just before the break?
I think his name is Smokey Tunic, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can bring it up next week.
Next week. Thanks for coming on, Paul.
Thank you for having me here.
No worries. It's always a pleasure having you guys. Thanks, James, again.
Thanks for having me.
Tune in next week, 7 p.m. for Car Talk with Matty J. Like and share our Facebook page. It's Car Talk, TORQUE with Matty J. If you've missed any of our episodes, you can get them on there. There's a link to our Shout Engine page and on iTunes. So if you're into iTunes, you can just look us up on there. Subscribe, rate, and review on our iTunes. Put us higher on the ranking so we can get our voice heard further. But this has been Car Talk with Matty J. I will see you same time next week. Take it easy.
This is professional radio, gentlemen.
And it's front-wheel drive.
Scotty, have you got anyone you want to thank?
Just myself.
And now we do the after hours. Dun, dun, dun.
Gentlemen, what would you go for?
ACSN there. Okay, and because it's not a supercar.
But it is.
It's not.
Automotive perfection comes in the form of 2 letters, A and U.
Long live my LTD.